Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn.
Okay, this is a quick little nymph I've used on rivers that have caddis in them. Basically a neon kind of colored caddis pattern for years and years. It's been one of my favorite nymphing patterns. Anyway, so I've adjusted the style that I used to tie on that to be more jig friendly for Euro style nymphing. You could use it with an indicator as well. There's nothing magic about that. So I've got my slotted tungsten on there, which is a 2.8 millimeter. And with the slotted ones, you got to make sure that the slot is up and down so it goes around the little bend there. And then I'm going to grab some lead-free wire. This is 0.015. And here's a little trick. I like to keep the thorax, the lead there, really jammed in there. But sometimes it's hard to just wrap this lead on. So what I'll do is I come right up next to the bead, and you can reduce our waste there. So we got just a little tag end that I'm going to hold on to, and then I'm snugged up against the bead. Now, each wrap, pull that down in between the bead and the previous wrap, and that ends up pushing the whole kit and caboodle backwards, and it keeps it nice and tight. So you can see those wraps there are pretty tight. And then we can just throw a few more wraps down in there. So something like that. Now with these, I'm just going to yank that one off, and then I'll come in here with my wire cutting scissors and just trim that off. You can always just bend that down if you want as well. And then we just push this all up against the bead there to keep it snug. Okay, now we're going to start our thread. This is just Danville's 70. And what I like to do is build up a little bit of taper and then build thread into the lead-free wire so that we can create a nice even body. Then I'll come back down and tie in our body materials. Now the nice thing about having this lead, you notice it creates a little bump, but we're going to get rid of that by virtue of our V-rib and our tinsel. So first I'm going to grab some, actually D-rib, but you could use vinyl rib just the same. And it's going to be flat on one side, so I want the flat side up against the hook, and I want that length such that it's going to butt up against the little notch there. And then I just tie that down. See, that creates a little bit more taper. Come back down. And this is just some tinsel in chartreuse. Kind of the same deal. I'll leave my thread up at that point. Now I'm just going to take the tinsel and wrap the whole body. Yeah, up to about right there. And now we'll take our D-rib, and then you just want to create nice touching turns. The holographic tinsel is going to shine through pretty good. Just trim that off. Now we're going to come in with a little bit of hairy ice dubbing in black. And we'll do the dubbing in two parts here. So the first part, we're just going to slap a little bit behind the bead there. And for the soft tackle, you could use a hen cape like in a dun or a black, but we're going to use the starling, which is one type of hackle. It works great for smaller patterns, and it's good, kind of a brownish, darker color, so it works for a lot of different patterns. So I've chosen a feather here. We just strip off the webby parts at the bottom. I'll use the same method as we've been tying on a few of these, where you tie it in at the front like that, and then I'm going to work my way back over a little bit of the dubbing and then trim off that stem. Then I want my thread left right in that area. The nice thing is that the hackle wraps will kind of cover up any thread wraps that go into the dubbing. Plus we're going to add some more dubbing here in a sec. So I'll grab my hackle pliers and come in here and grab the tip. And I'm just going to work my way backwards to where the thread is tied in. That's going to be just 2 turns probably. And then I'm going to catch that tip with my thread, and then you just cut over to in front of the hackle. And then we can come in here with the scissors. And this is where it's really important that you have sharp scissors. And snip that one. Okay, now I'm going to grab a little bit more dubbing, and this is just to help jam down into the area between the thorax and the bead. And I'll just preen back as much of that as I can. And then one thing I like to do, this is a cool little tool actually. I was surprised I liked it as much as I do. It's a Tmco dubbing teaser, and it's just a little tiny wire brush, but you can come in here and just pick out fibers. The nice thing is that you can get under kind of in that hook gap and pick those out a little bit. And then we can whip finish. And there we go. That's a great kind of all-around attractor for most rivers and streams that have caddis. It'll do really, really well.